Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I came to Christ. This will be my personal testimony, as you will see. My name is Keith Harris. I was born in Panama, as you can see by the fact that I'm wearing the Panamanian national soccer team's jersey. I was born in Panama. That's the Central American country located between Costa Rica and Colombia. Now, a little bit of background. I was raised by a single father. My dad did not really believe in religion, in organized religion. So growing up, I was forbidden from attending any kind of religious service. Uh, it didn't matter what. I was told not to attend any religious service. Ironically, I was sent to school. The best school in the country at the time was a Catholic school. And in Catholic school, you're supposed to learn about religion and about Christianity in general, catechism, etc. And I got all of that. However, they also had services, like church services, that anyone could attend. And I was specifically told not to attend those. So that's my background. So fast forward to 1988 or so. That's the year when my country was beginning to have very difficult problems with the United States. That is, at that time, there was a man, a dictator by the name of Manuel Noriega, who came out and basically was saying that he wanted nothing to do with the United States, and he was basically saying things that, provoked the United States into an invasion of my country. Manuel Noriega was a drug trafficker who was in cahoots with Pablo Escobar, the famous Colombian drug lord, and he allowed his drugs to come through the country, through Panama, on their way to the United States. That year, the invasion happened in 1989, but the year before, my dad decided to take us, my brother and I, out of the country and away from imminent danger, because he felt and people knew that something was going to break out soon. So my dad had the foresight to see danger and send us away from danger at a critical point in life. He could have made the decision not to act, and we could have been caught in the debacle that happened. But luckily for us, he was able to send us out of the country into the United States to his sister, my aunt. Now, it is here where I will first come in contact with religion and the practices of religion. My aunt was a strict Seventh-day Adventist. I was forced to go to church every Saturday. I wasn't allowed to go out on Friday nights. I wasn't allowed to watch cartoons on Saturday mornings. She was a strict vegetarian, which means no meat at all in the house. I came from not having any kind of religious practice to being forced into this, being forced to go to church, being forced to not watch certain or do certain things on Saturday. But the reality is that my aunt was very blessed. For a government worker who made a modest salary, she owned two homes, both of which homes were 3 bedrooms and at least 2 bathrooms in well-to-do neighborhoods. I mean, not too bad. She was able to save her money and be able to invest it in property. She had her good health. She was, not sick, not She wasn't fat, obese, or not bad looking. And she had a lot going on. But she chose to focus on the things she didn't have. And that was a problem because somehow the God she served, who has blessed her with all these things, wasn't good enough for her. Fast forward, after a couple of years of living under her roof, apparently a conversation took place between my aunt and my dad that I had no idea that took place. And the conversation had to do with what my dad is going to do about me. Oh, by the way, my brother, during this time, my brother had decided to go back home, back to Panama to my dad, because he couldn't stand living with my aunt, under her rules and things. So he decided to go back home. I decided to stay. After I graduated from high school, the conversation took place, and apparently my dad had told my aunt that he wasn't going to follow through on his promise to come to the United States and take care of us, basically. And my aunt felt like my dad was basically dumping his kids, me, on her. And this was a problem. So what she did was she basically sat me down one morning at the kitchen table, I still remember it, and told me basically this: you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Basically, she was kicking me out of the house. And I was surprised by this. But then again, I guess looking at what I had witnessed over the past couple of years, I shouldn't have been surprised because, we're not talking about a Christian person who actually, would do right about, people, her family, and things like that. So I took my things and went on a journey. I think I went first to my cousin's place in South Central Los Angeles, and then after that I went to a friend of his. I was basically couch surfing, just going around from place to place. And it was at this time when things were looking very rough for me. Uh, I was on the brink of becoming homeless. In fact, I became homeless for a little bit. Um, but in between that time, before I became homeless, I remember sitting in the couch of a friend, a friend of my cousin's that I was just crashing his place at, and I was just sitting there, just contemplating life, and didn't know what I was gonna do. I had no prospects, right, for myself. And then lying there on the table was a Gideon Bible. Gideon Bible is one of those tiny little Bibles that only has the New Testament and the Psalm of the Proverbs. That's it. So I took the Bible and I started reading. And the first book is Matthew. I started reading the book of Matthew. And I came across a place in Matthew chapter 11 where it says, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." And when I read that phrase, it felt like a calling to me. Like, at that time I was quite restless because I had no idea what my future was gonna do. I had no idea what to do. And here it is, Jesus is offering a place to give me rest. So I decided at that time to, you know what? I'm gonna put this Christ to the test. So in my own way, I don't know, I decided, you know what, let's try this out. If you're for real, then you can give me the rest I'm looking for. So what I did is I reached out for the phone book. At that time, there was no internet, no no Google Maps, none of that. So I reached out to the phone book, the Yellow Pages, and searched for the nearest Seventh-day Adventist church near where I lived at the time in South Central, and I found one. So I did a little prayer, I believe. So I believe that I probably said a quick prayer about it, and then decided, you know what, I'm going to go. I'm going to go next Sabbath. The next Saturday, I was going to go. So lo and behold, I went, and the first thing I see is a white limo, stretched out white limo, a line of people, and some guy just signing Bibles. He's just signing Bibles. That turned out to be Little Richard. Now, Little Richard, if you know about him, he was a popular rock and roll guy from the 70s. Um, he was he was like one of the grandfathers of rock and roll. You know, this guy was before Prince, and he was there out there. That was his church. You know, he would go to that church, and he was out there signing Bibles. In my mind, and in my heart, when I saw that, I was thinking, just said it basically to God in a prayer. This is not a good start. Just looking at this just didn't look good to me. So we're not starting on the right foot here. Nevertheless, I still went inside the church, and I felt awkward and I felt like odd. Part of me was saying I need to leave, but I still stayed. But it was there where I heard probably one of the greatest sermons, and the only thing probably that would set the tone for me for the rest of my life. And the sermon was based on 2 Kings chapter 7. 2 Kings chapter 7 is a story of four lepers who were stuck outside of the camp. At the time, Israel was under siege, and there was a great famine inside Israel. They couldn't go out because the enemies of Israel were outside, waiting to kill anybody who comes out. So there was a great famine inside Israel, and people couldn't buy food. Food prices were at an all-time high, and people to find food were doing horrible things like cooking their kids, like babies. Were being cooking babies to eat. That's how bad it was. There were these four lepers who were sitting outside. They were just outside because they're lepers. They couldn't be inside of the camp. So they were outside, but they were just out of the range of the enemy. So they knew what was going on. The enemy was coming to attack Israel. So one of them basically had this idea and said to the others and said, if we go back inside the camp, inside the Israel, we're gonna die because the famine is there and there's no food. We cannot survive. If we stay here where we are, we're just gonna get run over by the armies and we're gonna die. So the only thing for us to do is to go forward to them, and hopefully they'll have mercy on us, and maybe they'll give us something to eat. And if not, they'll kill us. So either way, we're dead men and we're gonna die anyway. So why not just go forward to them and see what happens? Well, when they did that, according to the story, the Lord caused the feet as they were walking towards the enemy camp to hear a great army coming to attack them. And what happened was all the men of the enemy, they abandoned all the tents and started running for their lives because they thought that the Egyptians or some powerful army was coming after them. So they left everything, all the goods. There's so much food, there's supplies, there's everything you can think of that people would need was there. So these four leper men came in and found it, and they had a great time. And then they realized, you know what? We're doing the wrong thing here, and we need to share some of these things with the people who are dying inside the inside Israel, because there's a famine there. So basically, when that happens, God delivered the Israelites through these four leprous men. It's just an awesome story. But the point of it was that stuck out to me was this: in life, there's no guarantee of what's going to happen to you. There's you cannot help the conditions that you were born in, or the situation that you're in. But you can choose to decide to move forward in faith. Not go back and not stay where you are. Just move forward. And that made so much sense to me that, you know what, I said, I have no idea what's going to happen to me. I'm basically a dead man here, sitting here. I have no prospects, nothing. So why not just give it a shot and move forward with Christ? And that's what I did. It was at that moment, at that very moment, that I decided to give my life to Christ and be baptized. Ironically, I didn't get baptized at that church. I got baptized at my aunt's church. But that's another story. Well, the point is that ever since then, adopting that idea that in life, the only thing you can do is not look back and not go back, but to move forward. God will let the results happen for you. That's what life is. Life is a leap of faith. None of us can tell the future, but all we can do is just take one step at a time and move forward and let God give the results that we're looking for. So that's my testimony. I hope that it's helped you. And I know for me, it's still, after so many years of being a Christian, I'm not perfect, obviously. This idea of moving forward continues even to this day. Whenever I need to make a hard decision, whenever things are bad, the only thing I can remember is move forward, move forward. Thank you.